Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, hope you're doing well. In today's video, we are going to take a look at another bargain part exchange car. Jason's taken this in part exchange against a black Mercedes that we had in, a Mercedes C-Class, I should add. And we have paid just £500 for this 2006 Mercedes B-Class. Have a look at this. Not too bad of a looking car really, is it? It's a bit of a weird looking thing, a hatchback MPV kind of crossover, but yeah, I don't know what to make of it just yet. Before we get too involved though, as always, I am going to run a quick vehicle score check on this, so I'm going to head to vehiclescore.co.uk and enter our reg, which is Lima Victor 06 Hotel Foxtrot Mike, and we're going to get a score from 1 to 999, depending on this car's MOT history and how good it is. Ours is 347 below average. You get absolutely loads of information when you do a vehicle score check. So let's head down to the score insights and find out why it's got that score. So looking good, recent MOT pass rate is high, average yearly mileage is perfect, bad bits, over 10 comments on recent MOTs, despite them passing. Vehicle was over 10 years old and the vehicle was over 100,000 miles. Well, again, we know that when we're looking at the older stuff. There's nothing too much there against it. We've got absolutely tons of vehicle details. It tells us that the road tax is £180 per year. We can look down and check out our MOT history as well. So we can see that it passed on the 2nd of December 2022 with just one advisory for the fuel pipes corroded on the filler neck. We'll have a quick look at that as we go around. But other than that, nothing else at all. You can go through, check out all the old MOT history. You can see the MOT pass rate, which is 79%. There's a mileage tracker, which you're checking to see if that's always going upwards steadily, no dips down, thinking it might be clocked. And then if you want to get more in depth with a check, you can do the Salvage Plus report for only £2.97 or the Ultimate report for £8.97. And if you use the code SHIFTINGMETAL15, you get 15% off. Right, so as always, we're going to take a look around this car objectively, cover every angle and find out what's good and what's not so good. So the first things that are jumping out at me, these headlights could do with a restoration. They're just starting to look crazed and faded, and it just makes the whole thing look tired and old. Talking of tired and old, we've got some lack appeal situation going on the bonnet here, which is quite strange because there's stone chips everywhere, but this is the main part. I wonder if that's a bit that's been laid in the sun more often than not, I don't know. It's interesting though, I don't know if Toby can get up close, you can see here just how nice the metal flake is in there. There's lots of like candy red bits in there. I guess you'd call this car like a plum colour. It's like a reddy, brown, purpley kind of colour. I think with a polish up it would look very nice, and it looks very nice there where the lacquer's come off strangely. You know, that's going to be a little smart repair there, probably 150 quid or something, if they can blow it into the rest of the bonnet. I don't know whether they can or not. This front alloy wheel doesn't look too bad. There are a few stone chips in it, and you can see that someone's touched it up with some paint before, but it would come up pretty good for a good clean. Our tyres are iLinks L Comfort 68s. We have got a good, I'd say 5mm tread on there. Good decent amount. Brake discs actually look really good. There's not much of a lip on there at all. Looks like it probably hasn't been driven an awful lot because there is some surface corrosion on there. Not a huge amount, but it's nothing to worry about really. Coming down this side of the car, they've got these weird little panels on here, which almost, from a distance, looks a bit like carbon fibre, but it's not. It's just a plastic that's got some dots on it. Looking a bit dated these days, to be honest, especially on these upright trims here. And I can see some of that's peeled off, and I think someone's just put some black paint on there to try and tidy it up, which, to be fair, probably has tidied it up quite well compared to what it would have looked like, but still not the best. Nothing too much to report down here. There is like a little ding just there, a little scratch here that would polish out. And this bit of trim is starting to try and make its way away from the car, but I think that could be clipped back on, if not bonded back on. This wheel, again, a few little curb marks, bits where it's broken off, but someone's gone to the effort of at least touching them in, which makes such a difference to the appearance, rather than just leaving them just looking tatty and horrible. This tyre is a Kuto Gren Sport Chaser. That classic brand, and we have got Similar sort of tread really, maybe even a bit more. Let's say 6mm on there. This is probably the best place to see that flake in here. I don't know if Toby can get that in his camera, but it is a nice metallic paint. Coming around the back, we can see that this is a CDI, it's the B180, so it is a 2-litre diesel, turbo diesel. There are 2 versions in this generation of the 2-litre diesel, but this is the slightly less tuned one, I believe. We've still got original Mercedes-Benz of Maidstone plates on here. Don't know how many owners this car's had, but we will find out shortly. But good news, for this being a sort of mini soft MPV, the back corners look pretty good so far. There is a minor little scuff here, I suppose. Tends to be when you find on these boxy little A classes and B classes, is that the previous owners have had a bit of a penchant for crashing into things. Another good looking alloy wheel, same sort of story really, being touched up a little bit, but looks better for it. This tyre is a Rovello RHP 780p, another catchy name. Same sort of tread, I'd say about 6 or 7mm. Tyre looks in good condition, but so far 3 wheels, 3 different tyres. Are we going for the full house of 4 completely different tyres on this car? This side of the car all looks good. Nothing jumping out at me, could benefit from a clean. Obviously there is mud and things down here, but nothing drastic. Even the wing mirrors look in pretty good condition, to be honest. One thing I suppose is the roof is looking quite faded and rough and just looking a bit flat. I think someone's tried to make some repairs here. I think there's been a few stone chips. The paint has peeled and they've tried to make that look better with a bit of rattle can, which they probably have made it look better, but yeah, it's far from perfect. The wheel that is normally the worst, the near side front, and to be fair, it is the worst of the lot, but it's still not bad. You can see some pretty decent gouges out of the wheel here where it's been clipped up a curb or something. But again, they've touched it in, they've gone to the effort of trying to keep it looking smart and nice. Would just benefit from a good clean really. And the tyre is another iLink L Comfort 68. So at least we've got a matching pair on the front, we've just got odd ones on the back. But they are all around about the same sort of tread. Doesn't worry me too much for a cheap car like this for 500 quid. While someone's obviously cared for it and spent some money on it, probably just didn't see the reason to change odd tyres on the back when they had loads of tread on it. Fair enough. Coming around the front here, this is where I start to see someone's been out painting again. You can see that's probably been done with a rattle can. The lacquer has started to flake off there, and rather than sand it back, I think they've gone over with a bit more of this sort of plum colour and then lacquered it. You can just tell because it's just a bit more of like a matte, not matte, I don't know how to describe it, satin look rather than gloss like this where it's all smooth and like glass. This is textured and it looks satin, so someone's definitely painted that themselves, but credit to them for a DIY job. Not bad at all because it doesn't jump out at you from a distance that it's been painted. They've done it quite well, a lot better than some of the other crap we've seen before. Still got a Mercedes-Benz Maidstone number plate on the front and no real cracks or damage or anything in the bumper, so I think the majority of what's happened here, bodywork wise with this car, is just where, because it's a red pigment, the lacquer's gone crazy and come all off, and they've just made an effort to keep it tidied up. I'm quite happy to see that on a car of this sort of value, that probably retail is about £2,000, that someone's actually cared about the car enough that they want it to look good, so they've made an effort. I don't think they've been beating it from pillar to post off the garden wall, so that's good. Let's have a quick look inside. So we've got one of these old school Mercedes keys that's still got the kind of infrared style thing, and central locking seems to work, which is good news because with the A-Class and B-Class first generations, one of the biggest issues that I've ever had with them is central locking and electrical issues. Central locking won't work, or it will work one way or another, and sometimes the gauges and instruments can be a pain as well. So far, looking good. Inside, it could do with a quick hoover. As per usual, this has literally rolled in today as a part exchange, but it's quite a nice looking place to be inside there. These old Mercedes wheels look really dated. It's one of the things that really put me off Mercedes of this era and further back is their steering wheels were just such a big blob of black plastic. It was just a bit depressing in my opinion. Best news of all is this is a manual. Now, I am definitely a convert to automatic gearboxes. I'd much rather have one, much easier to drive, it's old man spec, and I'm getting towards being an old man now. The gearboxes in these A-Class and B-Class are susceptible to be a bit crap, really. They're pretty rough on changing, they start slipping, things like that. I've had quite a few of these. Like, I had the nice like AMG line B-Classes before, but because they got an automatic gearbox, CVT or whatever they are, I can't remember. All I know is they're usually a pain. Being a Mercedes, the good news is that you've got cruise control, steering wheel controls. We have got air conditioning, etc. It's quite well equipped. The cloth interior is comfortable. Here for a little firm, but it's endured its life well. 127,000 miles. We're talking about, what, 16, 17 years old off the top of my head. For that sort of mileage, it actually looks really good in here. Everything looks to be in pretty good condition. There's a weird thing going on with the radio we'll have a look at in more detail before. I can't tell if that's a protective screen that wants to come off or it's just delaminating itself. It's the sort of thing that would bug me and I really want to pick it off. I'm a bit of a picker. I need to pick things off if they're like that, but I can't tell. One of my favourite touches I've noticed so far though is that there's obviously a little cubby hole here that would have had a little handle, or maybe it didn't, I don't know. But someone has fitted their own little knurled holder, little handle on here, with a little self-tapping screw in the end. That I don't think came from the Mercedes factory, but as far as a bodgy repair goes, a bit like the paintwork, it's quite a nice one really. We've still got our little cargo net for our storage here. I want to clip the bottom bit in though. Let's have a quick look in the back. So it looks reasonably spacious in here. It's very upright, as with most things in this car, but there is enough legroom and headroom, to be fair. I think you could comfortably fit a couple more adults, at least of my size, in the back. Maybe 3 children or smaller adults like Toby's size could probably fit in the back here comfortably. But 3 of me, we would be very uncomfortable, I have to say. Got an absolutely huge boot lid, which reveals actually quite a decent sized boot. We've still got our parcel shelf / load cover, whatever you want to call it. Let's have a look in our side boxes. Look at that, that's a full house. We seem to still have our warning triangle. We've got our Verbantash. Oh no, hang on. That's a Ford Verbantash, but it has got a German translation. That's interesting. Once again though, oh, someone's half-used plasters. Ethol test. Is that that's a breathalyzer, isn't it? We're going to France or something. So once again, while it's not the original Mercedes, it shows that someone's cared enough that they've replaced it with something else. This thing here, I'm guessing, is going to be our... Oh, look. Here's the owner's manual. How neat is that? That's something that even I didn't know. So here is all of our original B-Class owner's operating manuals. I thought that was going to be a tyre pump or something, but it's not. It's just where your books are kept in a secret compartment in the boot. I think on this side we've got a nice little cubby hole, so that's actually nice to see, rather than just being fuses, etc. in there, and our locking wheel nut key. And then under the floor we should have a spare wheel. We do. Is that... Oh, I thought that was fitted incorrectly because it's on a weird angle, but I think that's just how it fits in there actually. I noticed we got our little legs that pop down. What the point of that is, I don't know really. Why you'd want it to stand there? For whatever reason it was, it's not going to stay there anyway, so I'm not quite sure what the point of that is. Let's pop the bonnet, see what the engine's like, and then I think there is a service book in the glove box, so we'll check that out and see what the service history is like. Place your bets now on whether I can open the oil cap. I've got to be able to open the bonnet first. Ah, now these always catch me out. I've done this before, I've been stood here, like, I can never find the catches because there's one that pops out of the grill. I need to remember to check for these because it makes me look like a fool. Well, I don't know where they are. Oh, look, good old Mercedes. You've got one position here to have a look under the bonnet, but if you want to work on it, you can tip the bonnet right up out the way. And here is our 2-litre diesel turbo engine, little 4-cylinder thing. Oh yeah, no problem. Oil condition looks dry on the cap, but I can see some colour in that oil. So let's check the dipstick. Ooh. That looks okay. It's quite black, but that's what you'd expect for a diesel engine. But I'm going to use my favourite word again, viscous. I don't know if that's the correct word, but it looks quite thin and watery, not thick and stodgy and kind of, you know, grainy. So that's good news. Look at the size of the washer jet bottle. That is obscene. Who needs that much washer fluid? That's just asking for it to kind of go stagnant. I don't know if you've ever experienced washer jet fluid that's gone like completely stagnant. It's been left for years or something, and you spray it out the jets and it instantly makes you want to vomit. It's quite a weird smell, that. That aside, everything in here actually looks in really good condition. For a diesel, there's no signs of any oil leaks or anything like that really. No really sooty areas or whatever. The DPF, cat, I don't know, whatever it is, part of the exhaust system. Look how neat and clean everything, all that all looks. To the untrained eye, my eye that is, it all looks pretty good under here. I suppose we could have a quick look at the coolant, couldn't we? It's been so while since I've looked at one of these cheap cars, I've almost forgotten what I need to do. Let's have a little dip in there, because I can't see in, because I can't really reach it. Oh, yeah, it's in there. Looks like it's a bluey greeny coolant, but it all looks good actually. And Toby, you can try and have a look in there if you want. You can't see anything, can you?
Not really.
No, cool. Take my word on it. It's all good. Take it this is going to be our cabin filter in here, is it? Let's pop this open and see what kind of condition that's in, seeing as it's right there in front of us. I don't know what I'm doing, by the way. Ow! Not too bad, considering. I mean, there's quite a lot of... That's what you're breathing when you're in the car. Bugs and leaves and things. That's why it's important to change your cabin filter. Fixed. Right, let's take it out on the road, because that is where any real potential issues of us making a profit are going to show their ugly face. So let's head out on the road. Right, so we'll take it out for a spin and keep our eye out for some of the common issues that you get with these A classes and B classes. Suspension, noises, rattles, things like that can be fairly common. Steering, occasionally I've had a bit of a loose steering rack type feeling on these, a bit of play in them, but this one so far seems okay. All of our gauges seem to be working, tachometer, speedo, everything like that. Fuel gauge, all working, which is good news on a car like this. It does have electrical gremlins sometimes. Depending on how big your feet are, it's a reasonably small pedal box, and the actual box itself that your feet go into has got some kind of contours on the left here going around some kind of engine components or something. So it can be a bit awkward sometimes. You kind of try and press your clutch pedal all the way down, but your shoe gets caught up on something. So that's a bugbear of mine. I don't like that at all. You've got to learn to kind of control it with your tippy toes. But it's not the end of the world once you've got used to it. It's only because I haven't really driven one of these in a long time that it's catching me out. This car actually feels quite comfortable over the bumps. It's not too bad at all. Maybe because I'm expecting it to be really bad. I think some of the other B classes I've had before have been, say, like the B200 AMG or the B250 AMG, I think. But they come with huge 18-inch, 17, 18-inch alloy wheels with low-profile tyres, and they just are very bumpy on the road. So far, our gearbox seems pretty good. No issues there. I haven't got through all the gears just yet, because this is a 6-speed, which is nice in itself. That's 5th. 6th. The whole thing's moving nice and free, and it feels quite positive as well, which is good news. The only thing I don't really like about these Mercedes manual gearboxes is the lift up to reverse. It's bizarre. It's the kind of opposite of Renault or Volkswagen even, where you push down to put it into gear. These are a lift up. It just feels back to front for me, but I guess that's because I grew up in more of a Renault / Volkswagen, if I was lucky, household, not a Mercedes household. I have cracked the window because although it has air conditioning in this car, I'm not convinced it's working as it should. It's feeling pretty warm in here. Hopefully that's as simple as just a regas, but we will find out. I never did get to the bottom of this radio, whether it was just going to pick off or not. Let's find out what it sounds like. BBC Somerset, that's a good sign. It's not tuned into Radio 1. Radio 2, BBC Bristol, BBC Somerset, BBC Wales, Capital, Kiss 101. Oh, it's gone downhill towards the end there, but... yeah, not too bad. For a standard sound system, sounds pretty good. I'm sure the previous owners would have turned the bass right down in this. So I'm sure it could be bassier yet. We're stuck in a bit of traffic. I'd quite like to get my foot down and find out just how quick this feels with its 2-litre turbo diesel. Very nice light steering, makes it feel very easy to drive. That would be the idea, I guess. A slightly larger hatchback that's kind of like an MPV, but not quite as practical as an MPV. It's a bit of an odd car, really, isn't it? And the other odd thing about it is you feel very kind of high up and stretched out. The floor's really high, so your legs feel very much out in front of you. And in my memory bank, locked away up there, I thought that was incredibly uncomfortable and hurt my back. But actually, I'm quite comfortable in here. How are you feeling, Toby? A little bit uncomfortable. I mean, like, aside from just being in my company, what about the car? The seats are quite firm. You do have some lumbar support, I noticed on the back here. Oh, mine's fully pumped out. It's not height adjustable, so a bit useless really. With my kind of sciatica, it needs to be right at the bottom, fully pumped out. Not that that's comfortable, but it means I'll be more comfortable in the evening. Brakes are a bit squeaky. I don't know if that's low pads or it's just because this hasn't had a lot of driving. Try and remember to check that out when we get back. A lot of the times when I'm out on these drives and I say, we'll check that, we'll check all that, and I just forget, don't I? But Toby's got to remember now, so it's Toby's fault if I don't. Let's have another listen as we come to a stop. The discs look fine on the front. They didn't have a lip on them or anything. The back ones, supposedly the back brakes on these have a tendency to get rusty because, as with most cars, the vast majority of the braking gets done with your front brakes, and I guess these have a tendency to not really use the back brakes very much at all, so therefore they rust. Well, that was a little speed test. Not very fast really, but not painfully slow. Oh, I think the rear brakes might be a little rusty or warped or whatever. There's just a bit of a wobble in the car then under heavy braking. It's amazing how much the styling of the A-Class and the B-Class has come on in recent years. The more recent ones are very cool looking, edgy and all that sort of stuff, whereas these ones didn't really look cool enough to command the premium that was being charged of them when they were new, because these were that much more expensive than everything else that was a hatchback slash large hatchback type thing. I don't think they sold particularly well because of that. Funny, because along with that, they're now not worth an awful lot of money. They're cheaper than probably a lot of other cars of their era because B-Class friend. Because people tend to rule them out. You can actually get one of these really cheap. So in that case, now they're really cheap. I think they probably offer much better value than they ever did before. But would you choose this over something else? The original plan was to send this straight down the farm for Sophie to sell. We paid 500 quid for it. I'd imagine she could sell this for 1,500 quid quite easily with its 2 or 3 months MOT that it's got. But I did turn around to Jason, who is our new salesman, and say, you know, he's taken it in part exchange. If he wanted to sell it from the garage, he could. It's going to be around about the £2,000 mark on the forecourt. We might need to fix the paint. We might now need to do brakes. It might even need a service, because I also forgot to check the service history, didn't I? When we get back, we will check that. One thing we're not going to have to do, though, is a cam belt, because it is a timing chain. That saves us on that front, because Mercedes-Benz say the timing chain is for the life of the vehicle. And usually speaking, if that is the case, then you don't really want to change it unless you're getting problems. You're starting to hear that timing chain rattle, etc. And I don't think these are the easiest of cars to work on because of their kind of high up positioning and where the engine is. I've got a feeling I said this had cruise control, and I've been looking for it to try and test it, but actually I think I was lying. It hasn't got cruise control. So not only has it not got cruise control, it now hasn't got air conditioning either, because that's not working. Economy seems pretty good though, because since we started 7 miles ago, we have done 43.2 miles per gallon on average, and that's gone up now, 43.3. It seems to just be going up and up. Just want to test the brakes again now, see if you can feel a judder. No, you probably can't actually. I don't think I can now, which probably means it was just a bit of surface corrosion on those rear discs. Don't think the previous owners of this car were the type of people who would have been doing much heavy braking, to be honest. No, it feels pretty good now. Fixed it. Okay, so it started absolutely pouring down, so no external cool shots today, and I have a wet service manual. Let's have a look through and see what it says about our service history, see whether we think we need to service this or not. There seems to be quite a few in here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 in total, last done at Das Technik Auto Center at 123,000 miles in December last year, so about 9 months ago, and just about 4,000 miles ago, so I don't think we need to really worry about doing that as well. So that's a bonus. Like I say, originally I was going to send this down the farm for Sophie to sell, but I think Jason is willing to give it a go, whether he gets the paint bits sorted and whatnot, potentially some brake pads and discs, I'm not sure. Either way, I still think there'll be a reasonable margin in it because we only paid 500 quid. Even if we spent a couple hundred quid on it, then sell it for 2, then you do the math. Even if we spend about 700 quid on it, we're still going to double our money and be looking at getting about 1,300 quid back if we sell it for around about 2 grand margin. So not a bad buy at all. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please do give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. It's free to do. It really helps out the channel. Make sure you check out all the links in the description for all of our sponsors. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And we will see you next time.